government would have fallen apart had Netanyahu not prolonged the war because he wanted to avoid prosecution. Yeah. And I'm sorry that we needed the New York Times to say that, because I was saying that on this show to you, Piers. Many people were saying that this war is about Netanyahu trying to avoid prison. This is about Netanyahu trying to avoid prison. I know Alan is an expert on criminals. He's defended some of the worst criminals in the world.
Lawyers do defend criminals.
Well, he defends some of the worst people.
This debate got intense very quickly. What started as a normal political discussion turned into a complete back-and-forth showdown, with Mehdi Hasan relentlessly challenging Alan Dershowitz point after point. Before we get into it, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next upload. Now, people online use words like destroyed way too often, but a lot of viewers genuinely believe this debate lived up to the hype. Once the conversation shifted toward Gaza and political accountability, the tension completely exploded. So let's get straight into it.
Israeli publication interviewed 7 Israeli soldiers and officers, Piers, who returned from Gaza just last week. In several cases, the soldiers said Israeli troops deliberately targeted children. There was a boy who entered the zone. He didn't do anything. Other soldiers claimed to have seen him standing, talking to people. That's it. And they dropped a grenade from a drone. In another incident, soldiers tried to kill a child riding a bicycle.
And they get prosecuted
for
it.
They have not been prosecuted. Alan, don't lie on television where people can fact you. None of them have been prosecuted.
Yes, they have been. I know they have been.
Which soldier was prosecuted for dropping a grenade on a child?
There are dozens of them
on national TV. Piers Morgan can come back on the next episode and tell everyone that you're not telling the truth.
Dozens of them have been prosecuted.
Not a single Israeli soldier has been prosecuted for deliberately killing a Palestinian child. That is a lie. You're a demonstrable lie. Everyone watching right now.
I'm sorry, you can't say things. Hang on. Just to be clear, Alan, what Mehdi is saying is that no Israeli soldier has been prosecuted for deliberately killing a Palestinian child since this war began. Is your information different to that?
Absolutely different. I know for a fact because I was involved in the negotiations with the International Criminal Court, and I arranged for Khan to come to Israel and see the evidence of what has been done, how people have been prosecuted, how the Israeli legal system has been responsive. So I have all the data and all the information.
Name them. Come back on the show and name those soldiers.
It's true that they've been prosecuted.
Come back on this show, Alan, and name those soldiers. I challenge you. Now, I'll finish my point. You interrupted me. Hold on. You interrupted me. I never interrupted you. You've interrupted me twice now on this show.
I didn't interrupt you.
You did, actually. You interrupted to make false claims.
I did ask Alan a question.
Well, let me finish my point. Actually, my second point, Piers, was to you. I dealt with the Gershon Baskin and the deliberate killing of kids. They just killed 6 kids queuing up for water.
I was about to talk about
yesterday. They killed 9 kids queuing up for nutritional supplements last week. Stop interrupting, Alan. Everyone can see you do it.
And it's under investigation.
Stop interrupting, Alan. Otherwise, I'll do it to you and you really won't like it. Piers, let me make my point to you that I'm trying to make. You mentioned the New York Times. I'm glad you've mentioned the New York Times several times. The New York Times piece, the long piece, has a lot in there. 2 important points for you, Piers. I've been coming on this show for over a year talking to you about Gaza. Last April and July, the New York Times reports that Netanyahu's own generals told him there's no military strategy left. There's nothing more we can do. Stop this war. Netanyahu overrode them. So when I was on this show and you were telling me, of course, they're just defending themselves. What else should they be doing? At that time, when I was on this show, Piers, generals were telling Netanyahu there's no war left to be had. They also make it very clear in this piece that the government would have fallen apart had Netanyahu not prolonged the war because he wanted to avoid prosecution. And I'm sorry that we needed the New York Times to say that, because I was saying that on this show to you, Piers. Many people were saying that this war is about Netanyahu trying to avoid prison. This is about Netanyahu trying to avoid prison. I know Alan is an expert on criminals. He's defended some of the worst criminals in the world.
Lawyers do defend criminals.
Well, he defends some of the worst people. Epstein, Netanyahu.
Yeah, but lawyers...
No one forced him to defend these
lawyers.
Some of the best.
Piers, no one forced him to go volunteer to defend Benjamin Netanyahu.
You can't make aspersions against lawyers.
I can actually. I can say you don't need... You don't need to...
It's not very credible to do that.
Really?
Lawyers do their job.
Hold on, Piers. Somebody forced Alan Dershowitz to defend Netanyahu. He said he's proud to do it. No one forced him to do it.
Which criminal should he defend?
I'm proud to do it.
You're proud to defend Benjamin Netanyahu.
He's a criminal lawyer.
You're proud to defend Benjamin Netanyahu, Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein. You defend the worst people in the world.
I was proud. Yes. And I was proud to defend Bill Clinton, and I was proud to defend Ted Kennedy. I've defended people on I've also defended Palestinians who were charged with offenses in Israel. I've also defended Palestinian students at Harvard who wanted to put up a Palestinian flag.
Have you defended Netanyahu's corruption trial? I think you've only defended his war crimes.
But you know what, Mehdi? I do think it's a very lame...
No, I've been involved in his corruption trial too.
It's a very... I've always felt... A lot of people try this with Alan Dershowitz. Because there are lots of things you can argue with Alan about what he believes. But when people go ad hominem about him being a lawyer defending bad
Piers,
people...
Well, I'm going to respond now, since
most criminal lawyers I've ever met at some stage defend pretty dodgy people.
Piers, look at that.
It's their job, literally their job.
We're looking at our cameras. Look in your camera and say honestly that you would say to Saddam Hussein's lawyer or Slobodan Milosevic's lawyer, Vladimir Putin's lawyer, you wouldn't say a word about people who choose in the West to go defend those people? Yes, you would. It's just you give Netanyahu a pass. I see him in the same league as Saddam Hussein, Vladimir Putin, Slobodan Milosevic. If a Westerner chooses to go defend these people, no one forced him to. I'm going to question their moral judgment.
Do they have a right to defend?
Of course they have a right to a defence.
Then they should have a right.
But no one forced.
Well, hang on. Then they should have a right to have a lawyer defending them.
Of course.
You understand that?
Understood.
That's how the legal system works.
So if a British
justice
hold
works.
on, Piers, if a British lawyer volunteered to go defend Putin, you wouldn't cast any moral aspersions on them. Don't lie, Piers. You know you would.
So just to be clear, who should Alan be defending? Give me some criminal names.
And sorry, guys, really quick. You guys know I never interrupt videos, but that is such a good question by Mehdi Hasan. 1000% Piers Morgan would be absolutely shredding that lawyer for defending Vladimir Putin. Let me get back to the video.
In New York, people wherever he lives.
Which criminals?
Why does he have to go defend Netanyahu?
Give me some names.
Hold on. Why does he have to go defend Netanyahu?
I think it's a crazy attack.
I look at vile people and I wonder, why would you volunteer to go defend that person?
Because they're lawyers. Anyway, let's move on to the more substantive part of this. So, I mean, Alan, this incident that Mehdi referenced, the strike on a water distribution point at a Gaza refugee camp that killed 10 people, including 6 children, wounded 17 more. The IDF said it intended to hit an Islamic Jihad militant, but a technical error caused the missile to miss its target. But, you know, having technical errors that wipe out 6 kids in a refugee camp at this stage of this war.
Terrible.
And these stories are coming every day now. How does this end?
War is hell, and these kinds of accidents happen all the time. Many Israelis have been killed by Israeli-friendly fire. Many, including a relative of mine who was killed by friendly fire. Accidents happen. Israelis immediately announced that they would investigate, and if warranted, it might have been a pure accident, but if warranted, there'll be prosecution. Israel prosecutes its own criminals, and it does it all the time. And of course, Hamas rewards them. The Palestinian Authority pays terrorists to kill, pay for slay. There's an enormous difference. The United States government had many cases of accidental killings during every war we fought. And the difference between a democracy and a tyranny is that in a democracy, you investigate. And you investigate and prosecute.
Alan, before I go back to Mehdi, just on a profound level, I ask you this question. In what way is it remotely proportionate that Israel has now killed anything between 70 and 100,000 people on the Palestinian side, of which, you know, let's say a quarter, maybe a third are Hamas terrorists? We don't know. But let's say that is the proportion of that number that have been killed, which means maybe 60,000 civilians have been killed. In what way is that remotely proportionate to an attack that killed 1,200 people, of which I think 800 were civilians, and wounded many more, and kidnapped 250. It's so disproportionate now that what concerns me about this, if I'm an Israeli, a moderate Israeli, so not a far-right Israeli or an extremist or any of these things, I'm just an average Israeli citizen watching what my government is doing in Gaza now and seeing the fury that is building around the world to this daily slaughter. You know, this is terrible for Israel. It's terrible for Israel's reputation. I think it's dangerous.
I agree.
It's dangerous for Jewish people. I think that the rising tide of anti-Semitism was despicable when it happened in the aftermath of October the 7th. It highlighted a cancer in the world, that people would react to that attack by being openly anti-Semitic towards Jewish people. But now a lot of that anti-Semitism, I'm sure, is being fueled by what is happening in Gaza. And I think, so I feel for Jewish people too. So I just, you know, to me, none of this makes any sense now. You agree?
Well, of course it doesn't make, yes, and that's why Hamas is winning. Hamas is succeeding. Hamas set out to turn the world against Israel, and they realized that if they murdered 1,200 people, kidnapped people, there would be a reaction. And then they went further, and they hid themselves beneath mosques and schools, and they generated the kind of killing that results in good people like you changing your mind about Israel. That's Hamas's strategy. Hamas is winning. Hamas prevailed on October 7th,
Israel is
and
losing.
it's going to repeat it over and over again.
I think Israel is losing in the court of public opinion. There are
That's my point. I agree with you.
Yeah.
That's my point.
But then the strategy
Hamas
is losing.
Winning. Israel. Well, what's the alternative? The alternative is to let. No, of course, let's stop the war, and Israel has offered to do it. Just today,
That's not true.
Israel put an offer on the table that has been rejected. The point that I want to make, let me just finish my point. The point I want to make is Hamas had a strategy. We know there are captured documents that say it. That is, get Israel to kill as many Palestinian civilians as possible, and it will turn Piers Morgan against Israel because he's a good and decent person. And the good and decent people in the world on college campuses will turn against Israel. That's Hamas's strategy. We can't let it prevail because if we do, they'll do it over and over and over again.
Alan, just to be clear, I haven't turned against Israel. I've turned against the current... I want to be very specific because people love to throw around these phrases.
I agree with you. I apologize. I agree.
I've become increasingly critical of the Israeli government strategy in Gaza. That's my specific position. I'm not against Israel or Israelis or Jewish people. When people conflate it, I think it's really disingenuous. All right, Mehdi.
So,
I agree with you, and I apologize for any implication to the opposite. But that has been the strategy.
Okay,
they're prevailing, and we can't let that strategy succeed.
Alan, that is always the terrorist strategy. It was the strategy of Al-Qaeda. It was the strategy of ISIS. So
that's right.
Yeah, but
that's right. And the United States overreacted too.
Let me get Mehdi's response. Mehdi.
So, a lot was said there again. Yeah. Let me try and respond. It's insane to suggest that Israel has accidentally killed 17,000 children. Anyone who says that should be laughed off television, whether they're a professor of law or not. 17,000 people were not killed accidentally. The children who were killed in a waterline were not killed accidentally. The children lining up, 9 who were killed last Thursday for nutritional supplements, as UNICEF says, outrageously for UNICEF aid, were not killed accidentally. Children who were shot in the head by snipers were not killed accidentally. I have friends of mine, doctors, who have gone out to Gaza and have come back and said, we saw kids were brought to hospital with sniper shots, bullets to the head, to the chest. Multiple American doctors have said that. Farouz Sidwa, Mark Perlmutter, Irfan Galaria. Go Google it. People don't believe me. So it's nonsense. Israel is killing kids deliberately, has done so for the last 21, 22, whatever so months. You can't push this bullshit line anymore about people were hiding under hospitals.
Do you disagree?
We've seen it on tape, Piers.
Okay,
we've seen kids killed in cold blood on tape. You've seen it. I've seen it.
Do you disagree? Do you disagree with what Alan said, that this was Hamas's deliberate strategy?
I don't know what Hamas's deliberate strategy was. If it was, by the way... Piers,
hang on, let me finish the question. They created a vast tunnel network in which they hid, but left the civilian population to be slaughtered. So, in other words, I think it's perfectly rational to agree with what Alan said about the Hamas strategy.
Yeah, but hold on. What's interesting is, and as you pointed this out, why do it then? If we all know that's the strategy, no one forced Israel to go kill 100,000 people, just like, the Vietnam, the US, we burned the village to save it. No one forced Israel to drop 2,000-pound bombs on crowded refugee places. No one forced Israel to bomb hospitals. No one forced Israel to sniper shoot children. No one forced Israel to kill women holding up white flags, as we saw on tape with our own lying eyes. No one forced Israel to do any of that, which is why Karim Khan, the chief prosecutor, which is why the ICC judges all said Netanyahu and Gallant need to face war crimes charges.
A corrupt prosecutor.
Theodore, hold on, just to be clear on this. I know this propaganda is coming from. Theodore Myron, who is a former chair of the International Tribunal on Yugoslavia, a former Rwanda tribunal judge, former legal advisor to the Israeli Foreign Ministry, former Israeli ambassador. Theodore Myron, 94 years old, descendant of Holocaust survivors. He advised on that indictment and said, yes, Netanyahu should be indicted on the basis of all the evidence I've seen. He knows far more about war crimes than you do. And let me finish my other point. Piers, you keep saying...
No,
yes, he does, actually.
I know him.
Well, you haven't chaired an international... Alan, you have not chaired an international tribunal on war crimes in Yugoslavia. He did.
This issue.
So, no,
I've written books about it.
Great.
I've written a new book about it.
He actually prosecuted war criminals, and he's not corrupt. He's a Holocaust survivor. He's a 94-year-old Israeli-American Jew.
It doesn't mean he knows more about war crimes than Alan Dershowitz.
Yes, he does, actually.
And honestly, after watching that debate, it's easy to see why so many people online are saying Mehdi Hasan completely dominated the conversation. He kept the pressure on from start to finish and challenged almost every point thrown at him. At the same time, a lot of people around the world are looking at what's happening in Gaza and questioning how things have escalated to this level. The images, the destruction, and the constant headlines have left many feeling shocked, frustrated, and emotionally exhausted. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more uploads.